one of the questions that we try to ask everybody, because from my perspective, I think it's probably the most interesting, and I hope that people agree with me, is what does the songwriting process look like for you guys? Like, the first album was, I understand, mostly like you guys had each done separate things and you decided to do them together, but the second album is you guys, right?
Well, Casey, that question, I'm sure you probably get the same answer every time, is that it happens every which way.
Yeah.
And it really does, and I guess the interesting thread that you just touched upon for us is that while the first album were separate songs, and our actual studio album we wrote together, with the former, when we sort of revisited those songs between the two of us, the process of calling through all of the material and paring down arrangements to just the two voices or the four voices rather, was very much itself reminiscent of the songwriting process to begin with. Mm-hmm. You know, all of those decisions that you would make while writing a fresh song had to be revisited.
Sure.
And so really that approach wasn't too dissimilar.
And it sparked the
one
writing
from another
sessions for Prologue that became Prologue.
Yeah, it sort of illuminated the path that we'd then take to take on Prologue. After that, it's the same exact answer as always. You know, it's
different time way every song.
You know, somebody would show up with an idea and we'd go at it and we'd chisel away at it until we had something.
Well, if there's anything interesting to say, I guess that might be unique to us about it, it's the most rewarding thing for me about the process that we found for writing together, which is that I had done co-writes before. I think Kenneth had done some as well, and it was always writing for one of the artists in the session or the other, and
Sure.
never writing a song that both people were going to have to put their name on and stand behind and
Sure.
sing. And in certain cases, even the person who had the spark for the song or wrote most of the song, or really took the helm at writing a particular song, that person doesn't even end up singing the melody of the song
Sure.
in certain cases on Prologue. And so, we made a decision early on that each of us would have a sort of a veto over any idea or line or melody or anything at all, any decision, because if both of us couldn't get behind it fully, then it wasn't going to work. So
Sure.
that caused us to really push ourselves and struggle, and come up with what I think is the best writing either of us had done to that point and still has. So maybe that part of it is unique to us.
Yeah. I think you guys have set a dangerous precedent for yourself, releasing an album in March and then again in July. Like, that's pretty quick. I mean, by any standards, pretty quick.
The March one was cheating. Those songs were already released
Fair.
in our solo career.
So for anybody else, it would seem far too early to ask what's coming next. But it seems like now that you've done 2 albums in 4 months and you've done 100 shows in the last short amount of time, what's next?
I'll go on the record and fuck us further by saying very quickly here, in about a week we'll start. We've got 12 days set aside. We have to write a number of songs for a small film that was made that we were hired to write songs for and do the score for. And we're going to tackle that in a little 12-day period that could really is going to be trial by fire and could fall flat on its face, and this whole thing could wrap up quite ugly.
It'll be my first film scoring experience, not Kenneth's, but my first. Yeah, so there'll be some songs that have to get written as well as the underscore.
But so we'll do that, and I guess not in keeping with the way that we've currently done things. Those then will sort of have to wait for the film industry
Sure.
to catch up to it. We won't be able to share them with people until the film is shared,
Right.
etc. But the idea is right after that to start in on the next one, and hopefully by the time that we make it back around, next April or May or June, to all of these places that we've spent time visiting this year, we'll have something new to share.
Do you find that because you're playing so much, that you sort of like can't help but create? Like, do you find like you're the opposite?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we'll have to find some downtime. I will anyway. To just get some new sparks going, and then I think we found last time, hopefully it'll happen again, that once there's the seed of a good idea, and we get together to realize it, then it came pretty steadily after that, even not without struggle, but at least steadily. So we just have to gather up some of those, kernels from wherever they come from.
Have you found it to be easier writing with someone, or is it more difficult, do you think? Like, is it easier to have two people to build that idea together, or is it more difficult to just do it all yourself?
Well, the hardest part is getting the beginning,
Yeah, and that one
because you don't know where that comes from.
It's a personal opinion that a good song sort of has to come from a personal place,
Sure.
Whether or not it's an abstract idea or it becomes a story that's told through a different voice, or whatever the case is. That spark does have to be emotional at its core, and that to me, I think, in many ways, has to be a bit more personal than a writing prompt.
Sure.
And so, in keeping with that, this prologue record was evolved that way, and each song sort of started as a kernel in one or the other of us. It was never a writing prompt. And in this case, it was more early on than any other time that we allowed the other person then to get in and get their hands dirty and figure it out. But it is a personal thing, and that the hard part that Jerry talks about is just getting that first thing that you really want to sing about that. After that, I think the problem was exactly the contrary, which is that then there'd be a wealth of material, and the minute that both of us really get involved, it's a lot of striking with a red pen and doing some arguing or doing some convincing or pleading or whatever, and that's where those guts come in, is sort of seeing it go up on the wall and then sort of fighting with each other to make it look pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Anything else that you want us to know, or you want to tell people that may be reading? Maybe we always ask for like bands that you guys are listening to, or that you want to.
We just did a guest DJ set today on Sirius XM radio that I think will air in November. So maybe we won't spill the beans, but the playlist from that is pretty much what we listen, or represents what we've been listening to, I would say, over this tour and our lives, and it's a pretty good snapshot of our musical preference.
Yeah. Beyond that, I'd say if any of you go to a show as quiet as ours, don't ever feel ashamed of leaning into the person next to you and saying shh.
Yeah, that's true.
Great. Well, I appreciate it. It's been great to get to hear the music, and hopefully, and I'm sure it will be great to see you guys perform too. So, come back so we can see you again.
Absolutely.
And when we're finished with the write-up, we have the write-ups for the other two albums too. I'll just send them your way so you can take a look at them, and hopefully they'll be to your liking.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sure,
Well,
thanks
guys.
much, Casey.